As I told you, he's going to share some very, very sound, pertinent information with everyone. Please use all 10 of his points, please. Right now, we're going to get into our question and answer session, and I'm going to invite a very, very learned and experienced and just a group of people who have a tremendous depth of knowledge to answer any questions that anyone may have. Colonel. I would like to ask Mr. Mitchell Owen to come to the stage, please. And bring Randy Smith with you. Kerry Sanders and Mr. Michael Clayton. Now, this is an open dialogue. Anyone who's had any questions, ideas, have seen something that you have a question about, have had a situation, have been in a situation, weren't quite sure exactly how to handle it or what the best approach could have been. If you're looking for a better idea on how to handle something, this is the time to ask. Anything that crosses your mind, okay?
No questions?
I'm going to have some questions too. Does anyone, you know what, hold on. Let's start with Carnell's question.
There you go. Thank you.
Excuse me.
I'm going to restate my question in a different form. I'm noticing I'm having this negative relationship with a coach. The more I try to explain my cause to him when he questions me, I'm noticing I'm developing an attitude in him. And I'm just trying to figure out what's a better way. I mean, the more I try to be calm with this coach, it's just not working. And I'm just not understanding. I don't know if it's me or if it's the coach. And I know Alonzo is not. We want to talk about referees and coaches as confrontational.
Okay, how do
you handle that?
Who has an answer for Mr. Skanes? Oh, there's a mic on the table.
Well, I think first of all, Cornell, you got to figure out if it is you or him. You got to figure out whether if he's annoying you, whether it's personal or whether it's professional. I mean, if he's all into you about something that he's been all into you about it, and he's on you and he's on you and he's on you, then you have ways to take care of that. You can say, Coach, I've heard enough. If he doesn't shut up, then you say, Coach, I've heard enough. That's your warning. If he still doesn't shut up, then you got to hit him with the T.
I've even got to the point to where I'm about to address him personally, face to face, even before the game, and let him know that there's some things that's going on between you and I that, I mean, you make me not want to officiate your games. When I see your team come onto the court, I'm telling my partner right then. Me and this coach had dialogue the last couple of weeks, and right now I have a very short fuse for him. And that, to me, makes me feel like I'm taking the wrong approach.
Well, I think you're doing a good thing by telling your officials that you may have a short fuse with him. That way they can probably get you away from that coach or keep you away from that coach. But I wouldn't address the coach and tell him that. Because now you're starting out with controversy.
Exactly.
You're beginning with controversy. Because if y'all have some beef, whatever, you both know that already. So don't bring it up to that coach.
Cornell, I guess if I'm understanding the question, sometimes we all, experience situations where we just have personality conflicts.
Did you hear me?
No. Personality conflicts. And, what you're saying and what I'm hearing you say in trying to envision that situation, it would be probably just a suggestion that you at some point ask the coach, is there an issue? Because right now you're saying you don't know if it's the coach or if it's you. But too often, like I said, we sometimes have personality conflicts that just cannot be, avoided. But once again, when we talk in terms of recreational ball and high school ball, I think where officials get themselves in trouble is if you approach every game, doesn't matter if it's rec ball or school ball, the same, and that's that professional approach. You address those situations just as you would address it, in a high school game or, I'm going to say, certified game. Then you come to the understanding now. When you deal with that coach, you need to find out what's on the coach's mind. And once you have given that coach the opportunity to reveal to you what's the issue, then you now know how to proceed forward with the issue. It sounds like to me, if you've had this an ongoing conversation, dialogue, that it's a personality conflict, so you need to recognize that. And then you need to address it with the coach. When the coach get on you, if we put the coach on blast, giving them an opportunity to reveal or just express whatever it is on their mind, now we go back to our professional decorum and we know exactly now the procession, because we just talked about them, the progressions and processions of how to deal with those coaches. Don't take recreational ball lightly. Too often, I think, when we go into recreational games, it's like, well, we just here. Now, if you approach it like a regular, certified, sanctioned game, and you deal with it straight across the board, every game that you work going forward is going to be the same. Our mindset changes for whatever reason when we are supposedly working recreational ball, and it should not change. Because take the recreational ball and try to continually develop your mindset, your approach, your way of dealing with and learning how to deal with, coaches, players, situations. We go in them too lightly. We take them too lightly, and then it affects you going down the line. So then you get in a regular game. I was always told that I took recreational ball too serious. And my thing was, it is serious, because I'm trying to develop Michael. And now what happens is every game that I work, it's the same. I'm going to approach it the same mentally. I'm going to address issues the same based on the situation. So now you're in a rhythm. You're just in a rhythm. So I think the mindset, check your attitude first and approach it. Not, well, I'm going to work a rec game at the Lighthouse or Santa Fe. I am going to work a ball game. And if you approach it that this is the biggest game of the night, because it is, and when we talk in terms of with these players, deal with that coach the way you would deal with a coach in a sanctioned game, and then apply the rules accordingly. And if it means that we need to eliminate the coach, you have the means and the power to do that. Don't let them mess your mental capacity up and then change your whole attitude and demeanor on how you perceive recreational ball. We take it too lightly, and you need to approach it, I would suggest, as if it is the biggest game and just the way you would handle any sanctioned ball game. But check yourself, then coach, and if the coach is on you, your coach, is there a problem? Let the coach vent. You just give them an opportunity. Because now all eyes are on you and that coach. Just let the coach vent. Coach, are you finished? Get the response. Coach, you and I will not be conversing about this situation anymore tonight, and move on. And if it comes up, penalize. That's the protocol. That's the protocol. But first find out if there apparently is a personality conflict. And, I work games with situations where there's a personality conflict. I'm going to address the coach. I'm going to give that coach an opportunity to vent, because I know how the outcome is going to be. But once you let the coach vent, now you all on the same page, hopefully. And if it continues, then you follow process, follow protocol. But don't take these red games lightly. Too often, I think, as an official, we just take them too lightly.
Good
Well, I can tell a story, right?
Oh, go ahead. Yes, sir.
I'm not through. Michael Clayton and I were working an AAU ball game down in Noble one season. Just the two of us. This coach he's all over us, but he comes out, he calls a timeout. And he's pointing straight at Michael. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Come here and talk to me. Michael just calm. Goes over and says, man, this ain't happening. And the coach comes all the way out. He's all the way out about mid-court. And I want to talk to you now. And Michael says, I don't believe this is going to happen. And he just calmly turns around and he walks back over and he stands next to me. And the coach is he's almost dumbfounded. He's like, okay, so he's not going to come talk to me. What am I going to do now? No other problem the rest of that time, and he didn't talk to Michael for the rest of that game. And Michael called the game like he would, like he does. Professionally, like it's the biggest game of that night. But that's one thing that I always remembered on how he even handled even a rec league or an AAU game on a coach who has no business of coming after him like that because he don't know what he's talking about, really. I just thought that was kind of funny. That happened like 5 years ago.
I found something that works for me. It's kind of like having a patient whistle. If you know you're going to go over and talk to a coach, I'm going to take a deep breath. And what I always tell myself is I'm going over to have a conversation, not a confrontation with this guy. If a confrontation results, it's going to be a result of his actions. He's going to cause the confrontation. But I always tell myself, because I know a bunch of you guys, if you refereed with me 15 years ago, the coach didn't get any say. So he opened his mouth, he got a T. He opened it again, he got another. So what I do is kind of like Michael was saying, kind of assess my situation before I go over there. And you're going to know if you have problems with the coach. And if you've had problems with him, like I say, there's protocol. But we need to let him have his say. I take a deep breath and go over there and say, hey, I'm going over there for a conversation, because if you're already pissed at him and you're going to go over there for confrontation, it's going to happen. And when it does, neither one of you win. When you go over silent, another thing I'd like to mention, I don't think we have tonight, if we're going to have dialogue with the coach, it needs to be over near his bench area. He's not going to come on the floor and talk to us. He's not going to run out in the mid-court circle. Let's herd him back over to his bench and have the conversation over there. If it involves both coaches, we'll have it in front of the scorer's table. But if it's an individual coach that we're going over to address a situation with, do it in front of his bench area. He doesn't have the court's yours. It's not his. So make sure we take care of that in front of the bench area.
That's good stuff. I will, two things real quick. To follow up, the coaches do not have the right to communicate with us. It's a privilege that we afford. As long as their demeanor and behavior is adequate and they approach it in the correct manner, and we do have to give latitude depending upon the situations. We have to be smart enough to understand the situation and understand that the coach may have a valid point. So we have to give them latitude. But remember, it is a privilege that is afforded, not a right. And once we remove that privilege, it's removed. We don't revisit it. Okay? We don't go back and forth. And to follow up with what Sergeant said, I actually have to echo what he said, because there does come a point in time when we all have to make a decision on exactly how much rec ball that we're going to work. Because an important time in your development, when you have to make a decision, okay, I need to start cutting back because it's affecting my development. Okay, and that's something we all have to make on our own time when it's right for each one of us. Okay, moving right along. Do we have any another question from my distinguished panel? Walker.
I have a question. My question's kind of different. I find trouble with studying material. I get bored very easily, and I'm very visual. And I can't always be in training having you guys, walk us through. And I understand. Like, I can sit and I can read the rule book and everything, and I get some things, but I'm like, I feel like I need more resources. If maybe you guys know of something, because I get bored easily and I have trouble staying focused on
Or even the
rules,
interpretation
the book.
for the book. That's different.
Sometimes I read and I'm like, what did that even say? I have no idea. And so
So you have a problem reading the rule book itself?
I just get bored.
Do you read do you,
Like, is there videos? Like, I know there's YouTube and you can watch certain things, but like, do you guys kind of see what I'm saying?
For a lot of us, it's gotta be hands-on,
right,
or, you know, like she said, a visual, because I can read one book, one rule and say, I got some of the just, and to try to break it down, you know, it's kinda like you have to be in that scenario.
do you read your case book?
Yes.
And that's not,
I mean,
that doesn't help you at all?
I mean, it helps. It's very helpful, both the case book and the rule book. My thing is just being able to stay focused on it for. How long should I read the book for? How long? I mean, I don't know what
Here's what, National Federation High School website.com, that they have out there, they actually have video plays that they'll take out from different games that either are sent in to them or something that you can go out and look, and it's a specific play. And it's got narrative on it, and it may last, you know, about 30 seconds or a minute, and you can go back and replay, so you can actually put visual to what a rule is being stated or said. That's one source. I find that very interesting, and especially at the National Federal High School level too. I know that there are some other websites that get up even into the NCAA level that talk about rules and stuff, and you might not be there yet, you know, but that's something that you could always strive for or look for whenever you want to see plays or watch things. So it's got visual in it, if that's what you're looking for. But then whenever the season starts up, you know, we always say, find you a mentor, try to go out to games with them, or meet them at the site, or, you know, just trying to watch them work on the floor. That's how a lot of us have come up through the ranks, is that you find a mentor and you just kind of go with them. And there's just some great people that you can go watch. But then you got that avenue where you go to games and pick up some stuff, or stay after your JV game and go watch. Get involved in their conversations and see what they're talking about.
You just have a problem studying.
I just get up, walk around for a little bit.
Yeah, I
come
just
back.
get really
You
distracted.
got to kind of have to condition yourself to read the rules, and you got to figure out some way where you can entertain you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's up to you. I mean, I can't tell you how to.
I mean, or does anybody else have, like, I know, like,
make
in
yourself-
high school or flashcards help me, but I'm like, you know, like, I don't, does
Yeah,
anybody else maybe
And
have like a different?
what you might want to do is not only get a mentor, but get somebody that you can study with. Get a study group,
Like a tutor.
just like in college. Get a study group, and you guys can ask each other questions. You know, and you can drink root beer or whatever you drink. And really, I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but a study group is good. You know, like here, there's 4 ladies right there. Get those 4 ladies. And y'all get in a group and y'all
What
study.
Gary says is very sound. I mean, if you have a group that you can study with, give you a group of people you can reach out to that may have a different perspective on the same rule, and you guys can discuss and break it down. I mean, we do that to this day. We get together, we break it down, we chop it up, we look at it from a variety. Anyone who's been to our academic session on Saturdays know we'll chop it up. Okay, we can chop it up, we'll take it down to its very essence. Then we'll come right back.
Kool-Aid and everything else.
Exactly. And those things happen, because I know that we live in a visual society now, I understand that. So going online and pulling up video plays that will help illustrate the violation of the foul of the rule, and then look at the rule, and then look at the case book. Use a variety of different sources. Reggie just shared with me right now a source that I think would be great for a lot of, especially newer officials. Rules by topic, it breaks down the rules, case plays, and the rationales. It actually takes each rule, each definition, and actually breaks it down. It helps to define it. So it helps to, with the comprehension of what the rule may be. So it's another source. Rick?
Do they still make the illustration rule book? Remember they used to make a rule book and they had to.
Great question.
I don't think they do.
Hertz got one.
There it is.
There you go.
There it is.
That should be in your packet this year.
So that's another resource that's coming out this year that you can utilize.
That's all the rec games.
Yeah. But that's a very, very good question, Reggie.
One thing that helped me is when I started reading the rule book, the first time I just read it all the way through. And that was a big mistake. What I've learned now that helps me a lot better is I'll read it, I'll break it down, I'll go to the case book, then after that, I'll stand in the mirror and try to explain that. And so once I try to explain it, it's a little easier because then I get my verbiage down, I get an understanding. I think, okay, well, what if the coach says this? Then how do I address it? So it's read it, read the case book, and then try to explain it. And I got more entertainment just looking at myself trying to explain it. And that also helped me understand, do I really know the rule or do I think I know the rule? So once I was able to verbalize it, it started to flow a little bit easier. Then it didn't get as boring to me as it was.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
And then go back.
Do we have another question for our panel?
Hey, before we move on.
Yes, sir.
Let me just say one thing. This year, the State of Oklahoma Secondary Schools activity is going to be coming out with what's called the Mechanics Illustrated. This book goes over 2-person and 3-person mechanics. There's also a disc that goes with it that is very, very valuable. And you can go through the disc as far as setting up plays, where you should be, where you shouldn't be, and this type of thing. Now, myself and a few of the observer officials, we went over it last spring and this summer. So it's being published by the Secondary Schools Activity. I was thinking they were putting it in the packet, but they're not. They're selling it separate. So what we're going to try and do is find out the exact cost. I think right now, if you go and buy it, it's $19.95. We're going to see how many we can buy in bulk and get for you guys, because it's very, very good information on 2- and 3-person fishing. Mike Whaley will be here next week, and we'll discuss that with him when he's here.
There you go. That's good stuff. Okay, Jeanette, yes.
Let's see how can I address this. I had a situation this weekend with very belligerent stands, people in the stands.
8%.
No, 2 people in the stands. I understand that we ignore comments, we ignore all the belligerent stuff, but when is it too much to where you have to go and address it to the coordinator, and even when they don't do anything?
I think when it becomes a distraction to the game itself. If they're cursing, that's automatic. If they're throwing ethnic slurs, that's automatic. You got to get rid of them because it's a distraction to the game. If it's distracting you, then you need to address it. Now, if they're calling you names, cursing, anything like that, they need to go. And if they become a hindrance to the game, or if they're sitting right behind you and you're trying to referee the game and they're loud and everybody can hear them. Now, I'm sure I know Mike has a remedy for that. I've heard him tell the story.
I'd like to hear the story. Woo.
You probably have a crime too. But you have to address that. You've got to know, when you go to a school, you've got to know where game management is. And if you have to even go as far as to get a police officer to remove them, then that's what you got to do when it becomes a distraction to the game.
But yeah, Jeanette, that's exactly what Kerry said, is if it starts to affect you, if an individual or individuals, become personal, and if it's derogatory and personal, you need to address it. And how do we address it? We first take it to, the gym administrator. If gym administration, really doesn't, deem it, then what you can do, once again, and we do have power, they just don't know how much power the official have, is that we can end the ball game. We can end the ball game. And really, it's just that simple. probably the story Kerry was talking about or alluding to. I am in this game with some young officials, but I also say to the officials, because it's really kind of a one-sided game in the first half, understanding the temperament, the nature, the environment of this game, letting them know and preparing them for the second half that it's going to change. And if you, in an officiating, mindset, basketball is a game of emotions. Basketball becomes a game of runs, momentum changes, momentum swings. These are things that we have to recognize, or should recognize during a ball game. And sure enough, in the second half, the tide, the momentum changes, and all of a sudden, the fans that were visiting and rah-rah-rah, they not rah-rah-rahing too much now. And visiting team coach calls timeout because the game is now tied, and where I'm standing, and I'm pretty observant of my surroundings, and out of my peripheral see this body coming down the stairs, and I just look, and then I became oh, blankly blank, 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 blow your blankly blank whistle, blank, blank, and blankly blank, and I look, and what you gonna do, blankety blank? And I'm like, this kid is plumb out of his mind. And I just politely, because it's a whole crowd of people, I know I have security on the other side, and I just politely walked over to the officer, and I asked them to come and assist me with an individual. And as I'm walking back, he don't see the officers, and I'm looking at him. He said, "So what are you going to do, old man? You blankly blank blank." And I move aside, and I say, "You see that young man right there? I want to make sure he does not see the last 5 minutes and 55 seconds of this ball game." Not a problem. They go up to get this kid, and this kid is not going. And they're like, "Yeah, you going." So now they jack this kid up and take him down the stairs. They take him out. We resume the play. This is on a Tuesday. On a Thursday, I receive a call. "Mike, I just wanted you to know we weren't going to let the kid back in the ball game," which I knew they would not. However, said this kid gets talking and talking and talking till they upset the officer's partner. So they run a check on this kid. And this kid has a warrant for his arrest. And I'm thinking how dumb and how stupid, you can actually be, knowing that you sitting in a game, in a stand, you hot, so to speak, and then you're going to act a fool, failing to realize, and like I say, we do have power. If you guys really don't know how much power you have as an official, and that's why it's important that you understand protocol, because we don't have to take any abuse, none. We can accept up to a certain point, but then once again, if it affects us, our focus, our ability to officiate, then we need to address it. And the first thing you do, once again, is you go to game management. In this environment, I knew where the police officers were, so I just went to the police officers because I knew it was going to get handled for sure. Because you never know, in the society that we live in, you got a lot of crazy people. And you working a game on Saturday, we probably wanted those fans out of that gym because, it's not a good thing because it affects us. So just understand your protocol, follow your protocol, dealing with coaches, as an official, you all probably have heard this, you will ignore comments and statements. Okay? Answer questions. Go ahead and recognize the questions and answer the questions in a non-confrontational manner. Yeah, some officials get on the defensive when they are questioned, and we shouldn't get defensive. If you're on top of your game, you have the confidence in yourself, ask me any question you want, coach. I'm going to respond to it. Then thirdly, you just penalize ignorance. Period. There's just no ifs, ands, but you just penalize ignorance. And then move on. That's just part of it. That's just part of it. But if we will utilize those processes, it makes our job much easier in managing ball games.
Good job. Good job.
So I got another story.
Yes. Oh, here's another story.
He's not done yet.
I hope people won't quit calling with me, but last year, Jeff Connor and I was on the game with him up in Putnam City North. And it was Putnam City North, and I think it was Evan Santa Fe or something. He threw that guy out. He did. And we, we had gone up and down the floor, and there was this, I guess it was this dad that was sitting up there on the front row there, and it was on the sideline. And I had come down as a official, a C, and had been in front of him, and he was already yakking at us because we wasn't calling fouls against his kid or something. And I think we had a timeout or something, and we had talked, and we said we need to be watching this guy, or he's starting to be a little bit mouthy or something. Anyway, all that said, about the next trip or trip after, Connor gets over there, and he's behind Connor. Connor's in front of him, and he says something like, you better call that some foul or something. We just got through calling it, and Connor just sitting there. He just turned around, and he knew where the game administrator was. The AD, and all he did was just point at him, and then it was taken care of. Real smooth. There was no confrontation. I don't even think he even said anything to the guy, did you?
I'd like to take credit for that. That's Tyrone Reese.
Well, yeah, but you threw him out, though.
The second time.
But the guy was just gone. I mean, there's no confrontation. There's hardly anything to be said to either the fan or anything. It's just a matter of just knowing where your game administrator is or where your officers are, and you're just removing the guy. It's smooth.
Well, lucky for him, Tyrone Reese is a police officer, so. You didn't have to find one.
There you go.
That's why you go to games, is to learn something like that.
True. And the bottom line is that's why we have to know and understand what the proper procedures and policies are. We have the tools available to us to handle it. If we know what they are, we know how to apply them correctly, we can handle it. Because we are not there to take abuse from anybody. Okay? We're not. So use the tools available to you and just take care of it, and then press on and move on. Okay. Yes, sir.
One other thing. When we talk to a coach, I've learned, or I've been taught, never talk face to face. Always turn perpendicular to the side. Because more face to face, you get that confrontation.
That is confrontation.
Right? If you get more on the side and let them talk in your ear, it gets more of a conversation, and it's not that point. So I don't know if that's in everyone's.
I like to stand next to him, and I'll put my hand over my mouth, because I know you never know what I'm gonna say to him. He's the only one gonna hear that.
That's a true statement. I'm just saying, perpendicular to him is a better way, of having the coach talk to you.
That's correct.
Right.
Face to face is confrontational.
Confrontational, yeah.
Side by side is conversation. Okay. And we do our best to maintain a conversational stance. If I turn to face you, that means you really got my attention, something's about to happen. Okay? There's not a conversation.
Yeah.
It's not a debate. There's no dialogue. Somebody's getting penalized.
And another thing, if he's out of his box, walk past him. He's gonna follow you because he wants to talk to you. Walk him back to his box, or her to her box, either one.
There you go. All right, this is good stuff. Great. Yes, sir, Jeffrey.
Hey, Wayne, I'm dealing with the people in the stands. Michael said it a while ago, but not to raise any more attention to yourself or trying to embarrass that person because you're going to pour more gas on it. Trying to diffuse it because if you go out there and you screw up the call and he gets on your butt, you need to keep refereeing.
That's right.
That is
right.
correct.
That's just part of it.
Yes.
Right.
To deal with it all night long is a different deal, but try not to raise any attention to yourself or to try to embarrass that person. It's going to get worse.
There you go. I agree with that 100%. Yes, sir. All right, let's give it up for our panel. I'm sorry, we have another question? Yes.
Okay, I'm kind of new to the game.
Really?
But at this current time, I'm still playing as well as calling in. Jeanette
Right.
was at my last game with a little conversation, and I was wondering, would me still playing become a problem if I'm really serious about officiating? Like, when do I make that break? Like, okay, I really can't do this anymore.
You have to separate your playing and your officiating. There's two different things.
Right.
There are
Or should I
many
just
people.
not play?
There are many people that play ball and officiate.
It's right, but I want to win. Like, I don't really care about everything.
But once you're playing, you're a player. You can act however you want as a player. But when you become an official,
Right,
You
that's
gotta
what
be
I'm
different.
saying, like, when does it start to be like, okay?
You have to.
Only you know that.
You have to be incredibly self-aware. When it gets to the point where it becomes a distraction, then that answers it for you. If you're on the floor playing and you start trying to referee, that tells you something. If you're refereeing,
The player doesn't referee.
well, sure. If you're refereeing and you're refereeing from the perspective of a player, we may need to revisit it, okay? Because they're not the same. Okay, we have a totally different mindset. So, I mean, yes, it can be done. At this point in time, it's manageable, but once again, as we progress in our careers, we have to make decisions and choices. And with that comes sacrifices. We have to make a decision. Okay? All right. I would like to thank our panel for their wise wisdom and counsel. Thank you very much. Now, as our panel is exiting stage left, we are going to roll into our first scenario. But before we do, I would like to ask Mr. Jeffrey Connor, Mr. Wendell Graham, and Ms. Jamie Core to come to the stage, please.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeffrey, right in front of the stage, thank you. Jeffrey's the R, Wendell's U1, and Jamie's U2. By the way, this first scenario is 2 parts. Okay. Come on, big bite. Jeffrey, before I hand these out. Part 1. Before the game, the U1 is informed that Team A has co-head coaches. Jeffrey? Yeah. And everyone should, somebody should already be in their book, because they know that I'm going to follow with a question about this. Now the question is, how are we going to handle this? Wendell, what do you do with that information?
I go directly to my partner.
Your partner's over there.
No. We had 2 head coaches supposedly. So they're co-coaches. How are we gonna handle them? One of them standing up at one time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here, use that. How are we gonna handle both of them trying to be up at one time, or both of them talking to us at the same time? Do we need to address this in the meeting as we speak before we even get started?
Absolutely.
So are we gonna go with one of them for one half, one of the other?
They're gonna designate one.
They're gonna designate just one.
Anybody have a different? Yes. Carlos? Ooh. Ooh. And these are all.
We're on the game with Trina. I bet you they'll go to Trina before.
Okay. Class. Yes, sir.
Co-head or co-ed?
Co-head coaches.
Co-ed would be male and female.
Correct. Right. Co-head coaches.
Co-head is just 2 coaches.
2 head coaches.
It doesn't matter whether 2 male or female.
Correct.
Get prepared.
There you go.
Connect.
Okay, so what was just shared with us, that's real speak. I mean, the reality is there are barriers and there are difficulties that female officials have to deal with that men don't. That's just reality. Okay, so understand that. So as a crew, we will always operate as one. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but let's talk about that, because if he brings that information to me, we're gonna make that decision, but when we go let that coach know in the meeting,
Yes.
he forms the team.
There.
Okay?
Exactly. And always embrace the one and ask your partner for any additional information, whether you think they have it or not, because they might surprise you. Kurt.
You have a conference with the captains and the coaches, you're gonna know who the head coach is.
I tell you, It's funny that you gave us this situation. We actually had one of the same D-League games. We went to Oklahoma City University, maybe. I believe they have 2 coaches. They have 2 administrative assistant coaches that we actually played it out with the first half. And that's why exactly why I asked Jeff. First half, one of them stood up and talked to us, no problem. So the second half, the other one did. Because they're both working to get a head coach job. Now, I'm not saying that was right by the book, but we knew when we told them before the game that one coach was there at this time, at any point the other coach stood up, we actually talked to him, he sat right back down. And then the second half, they did that. And so I understand, but I don't know by rule what that situation is.
Well, Dale, let me ask you, is that because it was a D-League game, or was that at a high school level?
If it's a high school game, you have to have a head coach with you.
Or let the D-League go?
As your, do your pregame.
Talking about high
That's
school.
correct.
You have to have a coach.
High school, what does the rules say about a high school coach?
It should be a head coach.
It should be the head coach. And if the head coach isn't there, well, let me make sure I'm not getting baseball on that.
What does the rule say?
Then he has to
What
be
does the rule say?
Someone should have knew that question was coming.
Very easy. What does the rule say about the head coach and the captain's conference?
I'm at, while someone's looking up, I'm asking this question again. How many people brought their books?
The reason why I'm throwing this out is because I go out and observe basketball games, and I see this all the time. I see the head coach sitting on the bench with his assistant up there at the captain's conference. I ain't mentioning no schools.
It ain't even have to do with it.
But I'm saying, at high school level, there's a rule. Just follow the rule.
Okay, so does anyone happen to know what the rule is, or who should be attending the pregame meeting? Let me, okay, keep looking, I'm answering for you. The head coach is required to attend the meeting. If a coach attends your meeting, that will be your head coach for that night. Okay, and make sure that we communicate that and they understand that.
But what if the head coach in the locker room getting his final second preparation for it, he's not available?
He'll be sitting on the bench.
He'll be an assistant coach.
By
There you
rule.
go. By rule.
By rule, Jason.
He'll be sitting on the bench.
Now, I would advise you, before you do your meeting, if you have that happen, because I know where Jason's going,
I know where you're going to.
look around, find your head coach,
That's right.
get your meeting.
You got time to do it.
Don't start trouble right off the bat.
Yes, sir.
To address 2 things that came out of the conversation. Women, when you always say that they're going to attack you or come at you,
That's not true.
it's not always true. Because women have less of barriers than men do. Men already have a defensive mechanism when they're dealing with one another because we're sometimes confrontational.
That's right, exactly.
It's a great time for the young woman to establish herself in that pregame meeting. That pregame meeting is not just a conference of the captains and the coaches. There's a purpose for the pregame conference. When you go to that pregame conference, it's not a lollygag, it's not a jolly, it's an important session that you're having with coaches and captains. And you establish yourself at that meeting. If you go to that conference and you don't establish yourself as we're referees, you're coaches, you're players. You have to establish that at the beginning. Because if you don't, and it starts weak, it's going to run downhill quickly on you. And it's tough to get it back when it's running downhill.
Thanks, Ryan.
Sound like you've been down that hill.
I've been down that hill a couple of times.
First time that coach questions you, you got to respond. There's, you now are up here.
Guys, I can tell you this. Jeff, and you guys know this. If that head coach is not at pregame conference, the first time he has a question, what's he going to say? You didn't tell me.
That's exactly right. That's what he's gonna say.
That's why that coach has got to
You
get
tell
that
me
pregame
that.
conference. I didn't know. I didn't know we had a new headband rule or whatever. He's going to tell you.
That's correct.
Seriously.
But if that coach doesn't want to come to the conference, he insists not to come to the conference, don't argue with him. Take the assistant. And when he says something to you, then tell him he should have been at the conference.
While we're continuing to look up the rule, let's go to the part 2 of the first scenario. By the way, since we do have co-head coaches, we didn't designate. During the second quarter, the non-standing head coach yells an obscenity at the U2 as he or she is running by a teammate's bench. Read this, please.
Let me have that. Hold on. Let me have that. Let me take that.
See, I want that one. Yeah. Can we take that
You too. Read that.
U2, how do you handle the situation because you won and your R didn't hear it?
His team or another team on a fast break?
Hold on a second.
Remind the coach that he's not the standing coach for that quarter. And then if it happens again, warn him. If it happens again, technical.
Class, one at a time, please.
Okay, I would give a check right.
Warn anyone over and
Okay.
that's not a warning.
Right. Because obscenities, profanity is what? It's automatic, but it's what? It's unsporting behavior.
Don't
Correct.
even let him finish the obscenity.
Come on, man. That's the other team on a fast break.
Okay, so there would be, because of their action, there would be a technical foul assessed because of the obscenity, which is unsporting behavior. And that's if it comes from anyone. Now, the other point was that it was the sitting coach, so they actually do not have the privilege of speaking to us. So it has to flow through the head coach. Now, if they do, we can warn them if we're standing in front of the coach. You understand you're the assistant, right? So if you have any questions, please either have your head coach address it to them, if you don't mind. Okay, and you move on. If they yell it at them, warn them to continue, follow what the proper protocol would be. Technical foul. Says a technical foul, we move on. Okay. All right, if we do have a, yes, sir. Yes. Correct. Which if we have a technical foul against the assistant coach, it's what? To direct to the assistant and then indirect to the head coach. And now what are the restrictions? The coach has to sit for the remainder of the game. Okay, they lose their standing privileges. Oh, thank you, coaching by privilege. Thank you. That's actually all right. All right, thank you, crew. I appreciate that.
That person was saying, yes, they're leaving that's all the R.
What about that girl that wearing the suit? Did you take the Hey, you gotta feel some love for him, man.
So you're saying the rule book doesn't say the coaches and the captains have to be there?
It doesn't say anything about the coaches and the captains and the head coach to be in the pregame.
Read it from Jeanette. I'm sorry, read it from
The
her.
head coaches. I have one, what is it, 2-4, section 4, article 5. It says verify with the head coach prior to each contest that his or her team members, uniforms, and equipment are legal and will be worn properly, and that all participants will exhibit proper sporting behavior throughout the contest.
Great. And where do we have that conversation? At the pregame conference. And so we have to verify with the head coach.
I understand.
Right.
Well, understand, I came from Vegas a year ago, and what we usually had to do is we had the captains first, we talked to them a certain, and then we went and talked to each coach personally, took them through with the head coach. I'm just saying, that's different needs.
That's true. That's true. Well, actually, it could be different from state to
I think
state.
it's great here, having the coach and the captains there at the same time.
Okay.
Just to get it done.
So that was a Nevada, Vegas, that's a Vegas thing.
Just as Southern Nevada.
There it is.
Every association is different. So.
That Vegas count.
That's an excellent
But
point.
I like how you say right there, one who verifies that the uniforms are proper, that they're gonna show good, that's the head coach saying yes. If he says yes, that's the guy who's standing there.
There it is, exactly. Because ultimately he's responsible, he or she is responsible.
I agree to him because I come from Texas. I come from Texas. And Tasso is like that too.
Boy.
have in your varsity games, you have your captains, and then you have all the coaches in front of the score table. And, you know, if you have any questions or you address the protocols and stuff like that, and it's exactly like that.
So in essence, in Vegas and in Texas, we have 2 pregame meetings.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really think that falls under UIL.
Yeah.
That falls under UIL rule book because a bunch of my friends from Texas, they do that. So when they come up here and they did Eddie's camp, and when they wanted to do the pregame conference, they didn't understand any of that.
Right.
I had to brief him beforehand.
Okay. Okay. All right, no problem. So that's just we're following a different set of rules, actually.
Question.
Okay, that's legitimate.
Associations or OSSAA, they have guidelines how you go and do it. That's fine. I mean, that's just things you learn when you go from association.
That's correct.
Association to association, you adapt.
Adjustment down, exactly. Yeah, that's what we have to do. Tina.
I have a question.
How you doing, Tina?
When we're talking about the obscenity going down the floor,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question I asked him, I was going to just ask you. If there's a fast break, do you stop the fast break and let the fast break and then see?
You know, it's interesting you said it because I actually have that scenario up here that we're going to get to tonight. But okay, if we had team A on the break, fast break, potential layup, going down the score, which team's coach? See how the obscenity. So the defensive team yelled obscenity. Okay, I'm gonna slow my track down. I'm gonna allow team A to score. Then we penalize. Now the reverse is, yeah, if it's the team's coach who has the ball, we're stopping immediately. Okay, got it. Everybody get that?
Very good.
All right. All right. Okay. Wow. We actually made it through one scenario tonight. Somebody got lucky. All right, because that was going to be on somebody's crew. All right, we have, you know what? We'll save the scenarios. We'll share with everyone again at one of our future meetings. Does anyone have any questions before we break out here tonight? Does anyone have any clarification? Mitchell?
You have your nominations, but if you put anything on that, just drop it off here.
There you go. Drop it in the box. Remember, if you have nominations, drop it in the box. If you want to submit your nomination via email, the email is on our website. Go to our website, which will give you the email address. Sarge.
Next week, the director of officials of secondary schools activity will be here. His name is Mike Whaley. He has a lot of information to share with us. You got questions about dues. If you got questions about fees, how do I get to the playoffs? The sleeve. Anything you got a question on, the director of the state officials will be here. So we encourage you to be here. Bring those that you don't see, because this is the one and only time we're going to be able to address those questions that we have. And he'll be more than happy to answer for you.
Exactly.
That's next Monday night.
All right, everyone, thank you very much for coming out and participating. We appreciate it. We're going to drive safe tonight. Good night.
What do you got? So sad. Did you find out for sure whether we start on the floor on the 1st or the 8th?
Ask Wayne right quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's up, boy?
What up?
What?